On this episode of Deep Fat Fried, the disastrous making of Alien 3 and other classic films. And then we learn the true story behind the infamous Tulip bubble. Tonight, the making of Alien 3 and the truth about the Tulip bubble get deep. Fat Fried. What the hell, tarnation, is a tulip bubble? It's a tulip that looks like a bubble. Wow.
The tulip
Hot
bubble?
damn.
I've never even heard of this shit.
The tulip bubble.
Hot damn, boy.
This is some fresh ass, new ass shit to me.
You've never heard of the tulip bubble?
No. I'll be learning tonight. I have, however, heard about the disastrous making of the film we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yeah, I figured you had, Paul. We've all talked about this, and I was like, you know what? I want to just go take a deeper dive and kind of find out what happened with the making of Alien 3, David Fincher's directorial debut.
It sucks too because Alien and Aliens, both super sweet.
Here's David Fincher with a xenomorph. I think they're about to kiss. That's the impression I get.
It
from
looks
this picture.
beautiful.
It looks like they love one another and they want to
Yeah.
hug and marry one another forever.
I know.
And make little
Next
babies.
thing you know, people be marrying xenomorphs. You
Oh.
let the gays marry.
Where
There's a
does
little
it
background
end?
here. Where does it end? Like Aliens, Alien 3 took a long time to gestate. Get it? Although the previous film had been a huge success, director James Cameron had moved on to other projects, and writer-producer duo David Giller and Walter Hill, who had been with the series from the beginning, were wary of making another installment.
Probably
Of
rightly
course,
so.
The studio, being the studio, it was like, come on, guys. Like, this is a moneymaker. Let's get another one. So work eventually began on developing a story and setting, but the project was troubled from the outset, even before Fincher came on board. Got a little clip we're going to play here.
So this
So
is
we'll
at
talking about
21, 29 here, yeah.
Pictures, I just shave all their heads, put barcodes on there, you know.
He's just saying David Fincher came up with this concept
Like different
for the
take,
film.
but would allow us to, you know, was within the realm of, it was a spin-off of Vincent's original idea.
And he's talking about one of the writers, Vincent Ward.
Dude, dude does not sound confident in the idea. He's just like, yeah, and David Fincher made us do it, and it was Fincher's idea. I didn't personally.
Yeah.
It really wasn't my idea, but it was like a spin-off of an idea that some other guy had.
Yeah, there's other.
Started out with Vincent with this script, and because of creative difference, the old creative difference, problem, and then he was gone. So they had all this money that they had already spent on, making pay-or-play deals with actors and so on, plus building all these sets. And Norman builds the world, and I mean, he was like.
Great set design, but you see all the money that's already going into this, and we're about to learn why. But I just want to kind of show you guys the scope of everything.
So wait, so they had this other guy, Vincent Ward, who was supposed to direct, right?
Yeah, like he was going to be a
And
writer. He was like a filmmaker. He's a writer director. He was going to produce an Alien script.
Right. And they were so far along in production, they'd already built like giant sets and invested tons
It was made
of
at a
money.
place called Pinewood Studios. And they had invested at this point about $7 million.
Right.
Yeah,
And then he's dropped from the project, or what happens with him?
Aliens also shot at Pinewood in the UK, by the way.
Gotcha.
Oh, makes sense. See, there's some alien knowledge for you guys. Okay, so we're gonna get more into it. So this guy is Rennie Harlan, the finished director of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and Die Hard 2, was initially brought on with the intention of making a movie in which Ripley traveled to the alien homeworld, which sounds fucking awesome. They dismissed it, of course, as too expensive, and Harlan eventually left the project. So he made his pitch, and they're like, too much money.
All right. Well, but look, I mean, that does sound like a cool movie, but Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is not the best of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and Die Hard 2 is definitely not the best of the Die Hard movies.
Agreed.
So I don't know. Maybe it was best that they dodged the bullet of this guy.
Well, they did. This is actually Vincent Ward. So in 1990, Ward wrote the story for Alien 3. Of course, a proposed sequel for the Alien films. He was actually the fourth of 10 different writers to tackle the Alien 3 project. So that set in 10 different writers.
Right. So there is no actual vision for this thing, basically.
This is a Frankenstein. Much of the plot and several of the characters from Ward's script will later fuse with the prison setting from David Towey's proposed script to form the basis of Alien 3 as it was ultimately made. Ward received a story by credit on the final film. The heart of his story, known as Monks in Space version, was however not captured in the film.
So this dude was like more envisioning.
Well, I'm about to tell you actually what his thing. So the development process went much further until writer Vincent Ward proposed a movie about a monk-like society on a planet-sized wooden ship floating in space.
Okay.
So that was kind of his idea. Ward wrote a series of scripts, hired illustrators to design his wooden world, and eventually began building some of the sets, which is what we just talked about here. But creative tensions mounted with the film's producers and Ward, who could never quite offer an explanation for his space-bound wooden world. He exited the project, and then, of course, David Fincher came on board.
Okay, so the big wooden ship. I'm not saying that is like a bad idea in any sort of setting, but I think in the context of the Alien universe that had been established by the previous two films, it does seem a little bit like cartoonish. I think that's like the big problem is that after you lost like Ridley Scott and James Cameron, you know, like this series just did devolve into cartoony bullshit. And I think if you'd done this version with a bunch of monks living in a wooden ship,
I mean,
that would have probably just accelerated the cartoonish decline of these fucking films.
Let's be honest about it. The monks in space aspect, I think whoever wrote that part of the article that you pulled that from is being dishonest. It does show up in Alien 3. Like the fucking colonists at Fury, whatever it was, Fury 621 or whatever the fuck. Many of them have joined a religion led by that black guy where they have sworn off lust and like monks, right? And the appearance of Ripley throws that whole monastic order into disarray because now all of a sudden
they're saying monks in
faced with
space. Well, they're on the planet. Well, I would say
Sure.
thematically that was taken, but he had a vision of like a ship. It was like
Sure.
a planet ship in
And
space.
it sounds
like
cool
a wooden
on
ship
one
full of
end,
outright
like
monks. We're talking about like a prison planet that maybe has some like elements of that monastic
does a
order
wooden
from
ship
the
in
original
space
script.
sound cool? Like, what is a wooden ship in space? Like, how do you do that? You know,
Yeah,
what
I don't know.
Well, I think that was kind of what
it sounds
ultimately
like
where this went with the project, though.
It sounds like people asking that question is what eventually drove him to leave this project.
Yeah, like,
which is ridiculous because like they kept it like once again his fingerprint is on this movie. I disagree. Like the monastic, the monks,
No, it is
not in space, like but like extraplanetary future monk thing definitely got lifted, right?
Well, he did he did get a story credit.
He got a story by credit. David Towey, actually the guy who did the Riddick movies, he was credited as one of the writers. And then Fincher kind of just came in with the studio and just like created this monster of a movie. Is essentially what happened. Like I think if David Fincher had been hired directly to do this movie with a script, it probably would have been a pretty decent Aliens.
Another thing that I've found in my research was that James Cameron and Ridley were both kind of offered the director's chair for this film.
Yes, that is true.
Both declined. Ridley.
Well, Scott was too busy. Yeah.
Well, no. Well, Jim Cameron was too busy. Ridley's vision for the franchise was later to be expressed in Prometheus and Covenant, and it was those nascent ideas were deemed by the studio to be too expensive at the time for what they had envisioned the budget of this film to be.
I'm not at all surprised. Yeah, because I mean they totally balked on the alien world thing, which is kind of what Ridley was definitely hinting at with Prometheus. Like we thought, like okay, we're actually going to get that version where they go like, where is there a xenomorph home world? But of course, went kind of a different direction. Went the David direction. The Peter O'Toole ripoff.
Wait a minute, you're not Walter. You're David. Dun dun dun. It's like, okay. Well, this is the dumbest twist I've ever seen. This is like cartoon level. Once again, I keep comparing it to a cartoon. This like, I don't know what it is. The first two movies managed to do this concept without it seeming like a fucking Saturday morning cartoon, but everyone else that's ever tried since, maybe with the exception of Alien 3 actually, has felt very fucking much like a Saturday morning cartoon. I think Fincher was able to bring enough gravitas towards it to keep it from devolving into that, but just barely.
I mean, it's kind of impressive too. At the time, Fincher was in his late 20s, and although he was well known for his music video work, he actually never directed a feature film. His on-set perfectionism grated on producers who felt he was wasting too much time and money on getting small details right. Strange. You figured that someone making a movie would want to be a perfectionist, but whatever. The relationship between the young director and his studio minders was tense at best. So basically, the studio wanted to be like, quick, get the shot, go.
This is a classic example of the studio being dumb as fuck, because you have a fucking movie franchise that started in the hands of Ridley Scott and then moved into the hands of James Cameron. And they have this promising young director, and they're literally fucking browbeating him over being too much of a perfectionist. It's like, do you realize whose hands this fucking shit was in prior to this?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
this movie, I believe honestly, and I don't want to fucking derail from the point of the film, which is to kind of talk about the behind the scenes stuff. But I think this movie is unfairly looked at in the Alien pantheon. I think that it is given an unfair shake by a lot of people, and I think I understand why, and I can empathize with why. But as a person that's seen this movie like a bunch of times, you guys know. I mean, look right back.
I mean,
there.
you're a huge fan of the
right.
Aliens.
I mean, there's the poster that you got me for my birthday like 3 or 4 years ago, hanging in the back over there. You know what I mean? Like, I fucking love the franchise. I love the character of Ellen Ripley. I'm well invested in that shit, and I'm telling you, this movie is pretty fucking good. It has its moments of cringiness and shittiness, and it doesn't stand up to Aliens or Alien. But that doesn't make it a fucking shithole, fucktard turd of a movie like a lot of people say it is. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I would never say that it was that. To me, what it is I think it's like I can see like the vestiges of some promising stuff in it, but to me, it just kind of comes across as ultimately like a lackluster viewing experience.
The problem was there was no visionary director from the onset. It was just a very disjointed film that had a lot of promising people work on it, because they actually have done a lot of other promising work that turned out to be pretty amazing, Academy Award winning, in fact, when it actually fucking mattered. But unfortunately, when you have 10 different writers and 5 million fucking directors and producers in a studio that will not get the fuck out of the way of their own success, and because they're just looking at it as a cash grab, like it's just a money thing to them. And that's the problem. When Aliens, when it was Aliens, James Cameron got the same shit. Because he was James Cameron, though, he basically stood up to the studio and was like, then fucking fire me. That's literally what happened, because there's like, we wanted to make this cut, and James Cameron's like, then fucking fire me. And they're like, oh, well, we're not going to fire. Who's going to fire James Cameron? That meeting went, nobody's fucking going to fire James Cameron, because they know they can't just go like, where's the James Cameron trail? Just pick another fucking James Cameron out of the fucking ether. David Fincher didn't have that fucking clout, because if David Fincher's vision had been allowed to actually take over this movie, I think it would have been a fucking worthy successor. Honestly, it's the fucking studios that got involved. And we're gonna get more into it, but it's like, no, I agree with you, Paul. It's just, it really is a shame that this was ruined by basically the studio system.
Well, I think Paul said it's not. Paul doesn't really feel like it's ruined, but like, where would you? I mean, like, okay, so
I'm
like,
not saying he says it's ruined, but I think he's saying it's maligned for that reason.
Where would you
I've
place
known-
this in the alien pantheon, Paul?
I've known for a fucking long time that Alien 3 was beleaguered by this kind of jockeying and Hollywood bullshit, right? That was actually a news story at the time, kind of making excuses for why this movie wasn't doing as well as its predecessor and blah, 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 blah. So that I got that scuttlebutt when this movie was new. It was very loud that this movie was beleaguered by these types of problems that Scotty's going to cover here tonight. But I think that despite those challenges, the movie manages to be a competent alien film because if for no other reason, number one, the fucking visual design harkens back to Ridley Scott's original, which you can't fucking argue. It's a little bit of a knockoff Ridley Scott, but that real tight, cramped, old, dusty kind of tramp freighter in space thing that they had going on is brought back in this film, which is good. It's a departure from the bigger, more bombastic action film and kind of a return back to the smaller, more desperate story of the first film.
Sure. Yeah, they're basically in a prison. Yeah.
Right. And it throws Ellen Ripley, who at this point in my mind is a feminist icon after Alien and especially Aliens, into a really uncomfortable situation sexually. She's in a situation where she could be easily overpowered by the people that are in this prison and whatever done to her, right? And so she isn't in that position of command anymore that she's usually used to in situations that go awry. So she has to earn the trust of these men, right? And
you know, Paul, there's actually someone very famous that agrees with you, but he has another take I don't think you'd agree with. You know who Charles Dance is? Tywin Lannister. The love interest in Aliens 3 or Alien 3.
Yes.
He actually said he basically agrees with your assessment, but also shits on Aliens. So I don't think you'd agree with that. He's like, he thought Aliens was too over the top, and this was kind of a more of a return to form. He's like, so actually, he's actually an ardent defender of the movie, but I don't think you'd agree with his Aliens take.
I don't. On the face of it, but it's interesting to know that I'm not alone out there.
No, so actually, someone that was in it. I mean, like, and I'll tell you what, that is saying something about it. And he actually had glowing things to say about David Fincher too. He's like, he kind of was like, well, this guy is like, he basically told like, this is a first time director. Like, okay, this guy's going to be, you know, whatever. But it's like, David Fincher was super prepared. Like, he took this so seriously.
Yeah, I think this story here kind of exemplifies that.
Yep. I'll never forget David's complete devotion to The Color of Blood. Producer Urza Swerdlow says in Wreckage and Rage, which is one of the documentaries we're actually just taking a look at. Set footage shows Fincher musing about shooting 1,000 takes on an exploding head, insisting to an obviously skeptical Swerdlow that they could only shoot under certain sky and weather conditions. Swerdlow describes Fincher as openly contemptuous of studio oversight and says the studio responded by trying to, quote, break him. I must break you. I must break you, Fincher. The conflicts between Fincher and the studio were exacerbated by a rush schedule, of course. Well, that always helps productions. Ward's wooden monastery planet idea was scrapped in favor of a prison planet concept, but the script wasn't complete. Oops. Well, that's kind of difficult. Meanwhile, construction of the film's huge sets had already begun. We saw that a minute ago. So a lot of the sets for Aliens, or Alien 3, excuse me, I keep fucking butchering the name, actually had to be repurposed. Like, because they spent $7 million building sets for this wooden ship planet thing, and it's like, oh wait, we can't use that. But David Fincher was very capable, so he was actually able to repurpose a lot of these sets and make it work, surprisingly. Let's see the next one. And the movie's updated alien design hadn't been finalized. So, of course, they didn't have a final alien design, which meant the creature builders were trying to catch up, too. And if actually you keep watching that, they talk about that. They said in the summer, they kind of paused production. They're working on, like...
Why did these producers get balls deep on this alien picture before they even had basic shit fucking
because their studio
down?
They want it out. They don't care what they got.
Man, we gotta get some fucking alien movie out there. Build a set. We don't like the concept. Oh shit, get a new guy.
Well, and ultimately the studio had final cut too, because
of course,
I mean, as we'll learn in a second.
They got too much power on this project for sure.
Well, they definitely did. We went through this production, continually working the script, so the script was always in flux. Producer John Landau says in the documentary, The movie got greenlit based on a whole different version of the script, so that's kind of difficult. And David had to deal with that in a very short period of time. He had to design the alien, design the sets, and he had to write the script all the way into the depths of production.
I think that this, if anything, is just a testament, because like if you put all of this on most people,
they're gonna collapse.
Director-wise, like they're not even gonna turn in something, and if they do, it's gonna be an incomprehensible fucking mess. Like the fact that this movie is even watchable is a testament to David Fincher, because
100%.
those fucking working conditions are fucking ridiculous. It's basically like, hey, music video director guy, you're gonna be our director now. By the way, the script, we don't have one, and the sets, they don't work, and the alien, we haven't finalized. So,
but make us a movie.
Make this movie. Make it happen. You got the X amount of weeks. It's like, okay, what? No, that's fucking insane. It's literally fucking insane.
So one shooting stopped. The fights only continued. Fincher's initial cut came in nearly at 3 hours long. And of course, the studio was not happy. And they pressed for a half hour shorter version of the final product. So the theatrical cut, they cut about 30 minutes away. Fincher, who was a novice director with little power, eventually, of course, the studio won out. He quit the project in the editing process because, of course, they wanted to keep cutting down, and he wanted to keep his original vision. And they're just like, who gives a fuck? You're just some nobody that we hired to do a fucking movie for us.
Right.
And, of course, Paul, you are a defender of Aliens, or Alien 3. But, actually, I didn't pull this, but once you look up, TJ, what does the public think about that?
Let's see.
They
I'm
don't
pretty sure
agree
it's
with me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I'm not saying there's some evidence
like
that
a
you're
6.5 on IMDb, which
That's
is
not too shabby.
It's not
2 points lower or so than the previous movies have. I think Alien has like an 8.5,
I don't think it's as
and then
dramatic.
like Aliens has
Yeah.
like an 8.7.
It
Yeah,
has a 6.5.
I think,
as you said.
I don't think it's honestly the fact that Alien 3 is as bad as people make it out to be, but I think it's the fact that it came after Aliens. Because that was like to a lot of people the high point in the series.
Yeah.
Like you have James Cameron come in with just like a brilliant vision, and it's just like it's not that movie. It in comparison to Aliens, no, it doesn't stand up.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's been so uncharitably treated. So, I mean, whatever the behind the scenes problems are, evaluate the movie based on what you actually see. And I think if you take a look at it, I mean, like, I don't think it's definitely not my favorite Alien movie.
If you want to see what happens when the studio gets total control and no one is there to intervene, just look at what happened by the time Alien Resurrection came out.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
God.
Because
I don't think there's any debating that one.
It's just like, I don't know. This started off as such a promising idea, probably one they didn't even really recognize was going to be like the huge hit that it was.
Well, so how much it dropped off between those two movies, like Alien 3 versus Alien Resurrection, is not even a contest. Alien Resurrection is complete garbage.
Alien Resurrection doesn't even feel like it's in the same cinematic universe.
No.
For fuck's sake, it feels like
not at all.
It feels like this other fucking. I mean,
dude, my favorite scene from Alien Resurrection is when like she does the fucking backward swish.
Yeah, and
let's just put it that way, because that felt more like Alien than anything else.
Fucking terrible script.
Well, dude, it could have been a wooden ship filled with monks sailing through space,
I mean, yeah, at least David Fincher was able to salvage something.
Yeah, I honestly feel like if we're actually describing, that's like the movie that David Fincher made decent. If David Fincher had been able to go on it whole ass and, with his script and his vision, probably would have been sitting at like an 8 on IMDb and similarly.
I mean, the series might still have renown if they'd let him make something that was actually good.
That's the worst thing. That's how the studio crashed and burned the Alien franchise. But, I know Paul's doing a big retrospective, so I think he'll really fill people on that more than we ever could do. How about Jaws? You guys ever heard about the making of Jaws?
I have heard some of the stuff I heard the mechanical shark worked very rarely. And was actually supposed to be in more of the movie, but it was so hard to work with. They could only kind of really bring it out for the stuff that they absolutely had to.
I was terrified of this movie as a kid. The scene in Jaws, the opening scene where the lady's just swimming in the ocean, like it's portrayed here, basically. Like the movie opens with a woman swimming in the ocean, and then, she notices something going on around her, and you see how alone and how far out she is. And then all of a sudden she's grabbed by something. and they built some kind of rig to pull her around under the water, and she thrashes around and blood comes bubbling out, and, you know, tagline or fucking movie title card, you know what I mean? It's just like, that scene scared the fuck out of me as a kid. I remember being deathly afraid of watching that movie. Just because of that opening scene when I was a kid. And then once I got over it and watched the actual movie, nothing in the movie is actually anywhere near as scary as that opening scene. You know what I mean? It's kind of sad.
Well, that's the thing that kind of like,
but it hooks you.
They hammer
It
you with
does.
that. I mean, like, it starts off more like, oh my God, this creature, but it goes way more into being like a fucking character study with these like dudes out at the sea and stuff, which is a great movie. But
it is a great movie. I didn't mean to disparage the film, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like,
as a horror movie, I don't think it ever fucking offers a scare like it does in that opening scene. You're totally right.
I mean, I think seeing that with the advent of CGI and seeing they could basically make whatever monster, whatever person, I think we see why that Spielberg ultimately went in that direction, probably more so than just the over the top, let the shark kill you. But it's still definitely cool.
The shark.
And here's him actually sitting on Jaws, or as he was called by them, Bruce. Spielberg is notorious for working quickly, knowing exactly what he wants, and sometimes, well, we're not going to say that. Fuck that. That's someone else's opinion. But the filmmaker was almost broken before his career got off the ground. A 26-year-old, Spielberg lobbied for the gig to direct an adaptation of Peter Benchley's novel Jaws. Having worked with producers Richard D. Zanuck and David Brown on Sugarland Express, they opted to take a shot on the up-and-comer, and thus began one of the most troubled productions in history.
Fuck.
Well, as we discussed when we actually did this with Waterworld, they decided to shoot this on the water, which as we know,
boo.
No, don't do it.
Don't do it. It's not good.
So Spielberg actually tried to leave Jaws just after signing his contract for becoming typecast after Duel, but Universal excised his right to veto Spielberg's planned move over 20th Century Fox's Lucky Lightning.
Wait, hold on. Duel and Jaws are not similar movies. Why would that be typecasted?
Maybe he thought because they're action-y, he didn't want to be like,
I'm some action guy. Yeah.
I don't know. Duel is like a made-for-TV movie about a guy being pursued by a crazed trucker.
Yeah.
There's no twist. There's no there's no revelation like the trucker is your brother or any of that shit. It's just literally a crazed trucker chasing him around for like an hour.
He's probably worried about the horror implications, I'm guessing.
It's an action suspense horror movie, and this is like, a character study horror movie, and he was afraid of I don't want to be Steven Spielberg, the horror movie guy.
Yeah, he probably was afraid of getting pigeonholed as a horror director, because that's especially back then. I think now it gets a little bit more it's not quite as lambasted, but it's back then it's if you're a horror director, that's a lower level of being a director.
You're not a true auteur.
You're not a real artist some of us. But
I know nobody does this, but look at the Oscars. Horror is still almost completely absent from the Oscars every fucking year. But look at that movie. Hold on, look at that movie, The Witch, that I put you onto, right?
Yeah.
And tell me that movie shouldn't have won some kind of fucking Oscar that year.
It should have been at least nominated.
It wasn't even
Picture.
fucking nominated, dude.
Not even considered.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Not even fucking considered.
Fuck Hollywood.
Horror still has this
another
stigma
reason why
attached
the
to it.
fucking
So
Oscars shouldn't be taken seriously.
It just doesn't matter as much anymore. What the Academy thinks doesn't matter as much anymore, because horror directors have ways around the typical studio fucking triumvirate, and they're able to get it to people who actually like their movies. And Hollywood is salty about that clearly and doesn't want to celebrate them, but it's still, horror gets trashed.
But anyway, Spielberg probably didn't want to be pigeonholed with that.
Yeah, I think it's a safe assumption, especially I think the year was 1975. So unhappy with Benchley's own adaptation of the novel, Spielberg enlisted a slew of different writers to take a crack at the script, making the characters more likable and adding more humor. Carl Gottlieb was originally contracted to just do some punch-ups, but eventually became the primary screenwriter. We got another image here, TJ.
So he did not
Here's Bruce.
So the novelist himself behind the Jaws book tried to take a crack at writing a script, and Spielberg was like, no, this script sucks, basically.
We ain't doing this.
Wow. That just looking at that, that just looks like a fucking never working nightmare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't look that just looks like something that's gonna fucking break down half the time.
It also has a really cool steampunk aesthetic to it.
It sure does. Yeah. Like this would be a cool album cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Filming began on a budget of $4 million that quickly ballooned up to $9 million.
I was about to say, even in those times, $4 million seems like you're not going to do it for that.
Well, that's why they said they're taking a shot on Spielberg.
If you had told me that this motherfucker made this fucking movie for $4 million back in 1980, whatever, I'd be like, nah, that doesn't fucking ring true. But yeah.
So of course, as we discussed before, the reason for this hugely inflated budget, they decided to shoot the film on actual open water rather than in a tank. Film in a tank, dude.
Oh my god.
Film in the tank.
Some of it, okay, if you want to film a little bit on the fucking, but like the shit with the shark definitely should have been in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
Because like you're literally bringing this fucking mechanical monstrosity out into the water, out into salt water every day and just expecting it to fucking work.
So Spielberg basically was like, oh yeah, we'll do this. Yet he didn't really have any idea. It's like how much more difficult it's really going to be to shoot in the real world. Nor was he expecting the mechanical shark for its jaws to be mostly unusable. Yeah. So this featured here, Bruce, nicknamed Bruce, was originally intended to show up much earlier in the film, but since the prop didn't work, Spielberg had to create suspense and terror in other ways. One was to fix the yellow barrels, which ended up being one of the most memorable sequences in the film.
Yeah,
because them shooting in the water. They just look miserable.
The faces say it all, man.
These
the
people
faces fucking say it all. They're like, what have we done?
Yep.
What the fuck have we done? Look at this.
Regret.
That's why I pulled it.
Fucking just like sarcasm.
Just like deep, like, what the fuck have I done?
All right, the cameraman kind of looks like he might be having a good time.
He looks like he's bemused to me. And then this guy,
he looks like he's ready to kill himself.
Yeah, he just looks like he wants to just like, he's like looking at land over there, like, just let me back on that. I just can't, I don't want to be out in this water. I hate this. I hate every fucking second of this. It's the most miserable fucking experience of my life. Get me out.
I was
get me
thinking,
out. Get me out.
Because you know Steven Spielberg before was like, look, we're going to make this true. We're going to make this authentic. We're going to shoot this on the open water. People are going to feel it. They're going to know it. It's going to be real and visceral. And everyone's like, that's a great idea. And they're fucking for like months sitting their fucking ass, like fucking waist deep in water, fucking freezing their fucking nuts off. They're like, wait a minute. And Spielberg's like, cut. What do you mean cut? Oh, no good to me, you son of a bitch. Of course, guys, too. Unfortunately, shooting at sea caused delay after delay as cast and crew members got sick, cameras malfunctioned, and resetting shots took hours. Spielberg went as far as to estimate that of a 12-hour workday on Jaws, only an average of 4 hours was spent actually filming something. Originally scheduled for 55 days, principal photography droned on for 159 days in total, extremely over budget and over schedule.
Oh man, 55 days ballooned into 155 fucking days.
55 days tops. We'll be done. We'll have Jaws in the bank. You know, we'll be able to go start editing, shortly thereafter. 159 days.
It's 159 days. This movie, you're fucking like, that means everyone's scheduled to fucking work this movie is like, okay, 55 days.
Couple months.
And then it's like, no, it's going to have to be 159 days, guys.
I mean, 6 months is what, 180 days?
This is now half your fucking year. Congratulations.
Yeah, about 5.5 months or so. Like 5 months. Yep. 5 months working on Jaws.
Fucking insane. Fuck that.
It's one that I loved about this too. One of the little anecdotes. While filming the now famous final scene out at sea, the movie boat had its hull accidentally ruptured and quickly began to sink. In a panic, Spielberg yelled, "Get the actors off the boat!" A sound engineer by the name of John Carter wrote a sign in the response that read, "Fuck the actors, save the sound department. I thought my career as a filmmaker was over." Spielberg later said of those dark days. Literally, the fucking ship is literally sinking. Of course, though, Jaws is notable, however, for being an example of a film that benefited from production difficulties. Had the fake shark functioned as planned, it's likely that Jaws would have ended up as just another violent, cheesy monster movie instead of the masterpiece of suspense we ended up with. So, ultimately, the final product, people love Jaws.
You know what I mean? Like, it just goes to show you that when a movie comes out and they excuse its shittiness with like the set was fraught with problems, blah blah blah. It's like, well, that's not always an excuse.
That doesn't.
Sometimes
like,
the movie that comes out at the end of that is pretty fucking good.
Yeah, like I said, dude, I fucking think that is also the case with Alien. I think that it's fucking chaotic beginnings and stuff fed a decent fucking movie. Not necessarily a masterpiece like Jaws, but certainly an example of the same principle at work, no? Like the chaos inherent at the beginnings of the movie and all the weird switching and this, that, and then practical way it was done all ended up feeding what the movie is. And if you take it for what it is and set your expectations aside, it's not that bad of a fucking movie.
Well, being difficult is not necessarily just like, oh, it was a difficult movie to make. I mean, there's plenty of difficult movies to make, I'm sure, that turn out to be great movies.
Well, let's just face it. So. When this movie came out, if this movie had been a flop, Steven Spielberg probably would have had a very tough time finding work again. But since the movie was
a massive,
huge hit, obviously it didn't matter that the production was fraught with problems, because at the end of the day, the movie made money, and that's really what they give a fuck about. So, The Bourne Identity,
an adrenaline rush,
50,000 cuts later. These movies are edited. I don't know if the original was edited the same way. I think it was.
It was the
just
jump
like
cut,
just
fever.
like yeah, like there's like it almost never even holds on a fucking take a cut for like a second.
Oh my god, the
like,
action scenes are crazy.
Every fucking thing is like.
I kind of blame this movie for that too.
Yeah,
because this movie definitely popularized that, where it's like, dude, anyone can be an action movie star because you can just have like 50,000 cuts to make it look like that person can do anything.
Yeah,
and then years later we get Liam Neeson pretending to jump over a fence.
Yeah, the culmination of that is the fence.
So The Bourne Identity is proof positive that difficulties during production, even creative differences with the director, doesn't always equal a bad movie, right? Yeah. I mean, a lot of people still love this movie. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I think it's okay.
I like it.
I mean, it's not my favorite movie all the
time.
I
like the first couple of them. I mean, I don't know. They were fucking pretty taut, well-made action thrillers. So.
I enjoyed this one at least.
Yeah, I think actually some of the sequels were a little better, but...
Yeah. The spy thriller marked Go and Swingers filmmaker Doug Liman's biggest film to date and was Matt Damon's first foray into the action hero role. But the two had no interest in making a standard actioner. Indeed, Liman's almost documentary-like approach to the Bourne Identity adds a visceral quality to the 2002's films. Adds a visceral quality to the 2002 film that your standard clean-shaven actioners lacked at the time.
Let me think. What was the action scene like in 2002? Like, what was coming out then? Because I feel like action movies had kind of gone through like a renaissance in the 80s and 90s, and that by now the genre was kind of getting a little stale, you know? And the superhero movie hadn't yet risen up to kind of take the place. And this is kind of like what happened in the interim to me, is like these Bourne movies where he's kind of like a superhero because he's got powers and stuff. He's a super soldier, but...
Well, I kind of think about like I'm trying to think of that time period. Like Stallone in that time was doing what he did, like Get Carter. That's a remake.
I mean, like he's doing like Stallone and fucking Schwarzenegger are past their prime doing crap.
Yeah, I think Schwarzenegger was doing shit like Collateral Damage and just shit that's really forgettable. I mean, like mainstream enough to get a theatrical release, but nothing really. Just kind of wrote
like all the old action stars are pretty much fallen at this point, or just like they're no longer in their prime. So
no. But once filming commenced, Linman and Universal Pictures started butting heads. The studio was unhappy with the film's pacing and smaller scale of action set pieces. Tony Gilroy and Linman were rewriting the script constantly, causing the film's release date to be pushed back from September 2001 to June 2002. So the studios is obviously they're not loving this. It's like, it's taking longer. They're rewriting the script. Can't be doing those things. Just give us a paint by the numbers action movie, right? Things were so hectic that Matt Damon later revealed that producer Frank Marshall ended up directing some scenes himself because it was all hands on deck. A major point of contention was the third act, specifically the sequence set at the farmhouse. Universal wanted it cut, but Liman and Damon argued it was crucial understanding Bourne as a character, so went through numerous rewrites and reworks to make both Liman and the studio happy.
Yeah, I guarantee you that was a pain in the ass to fucking diplomatically work out. When someone's like, this scene is crucial. Another person's like, this scene fucking drags.
Yeah.
You know, then you have to figure out some kind of compromise between those two completely untenable positions. I don't actually remember what the fuck happened in the farmhouse, because to me, the Bourne Identity, the things I remember from it are like, he's a super soldier. He gets with some chick. He does some cool karate moves. He fights a guy in an apartment, and they fuck each other up in a pretty cool fight sequence.
It was like a new James Bond.
Yeah, I mean, like, it kind of felt like
munchers, dude.
Yeah. That's what I fucking feel about this kind of movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know about crucial to his character, whatever. Maybe I'd have to watch it again to fucking determine that.
There's not. Trust me, it hasn't been that long since I've watched The Bourne Identity and some of its sequels and shit. Like, and it's not. It's really like a flimsy kind of plot layered over just an excuse for fast car chases with lots of jump cuts and explosions and gunfights and action shit. And I'm not down talking none of that. Like, it is get a big tub of extra butter popcorn and get a big Coke and sit there and watch it. You know what I mean? It's that type of movie.
That's what it's good for.
That's basically what I watched it for back in the day. And honestly, like, the shit's been done better since. So I don't know, but I mean, I remember liking it.
It was kind of a mutual thing between the studio and Lindman, where they kind of were just both like, well, it's probably just going to be a failure, whatever. Just chalk it up to what it was. Of course, it goes on to be a huge hit. Basically spawned a series. They made like, what, 4 or 5 of these movies?
Yeah, like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, a number of sequels. But he was not asked to come back to direct. That's the one thing. That's very unusual to have a hit, and then it's like, yeah, we won't have you back. And that is what I have for you. I guess he was. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I guess he was a bigger pain in the ass than Spielberg was, because Spielberg, they didn't care that his production was fraught with bullshit.
It's an action movie. Let's be honest. It's like Paul said. This is a turn your brain off thing, and they're like, anyone can do that, and we'll still. And
this guy thinks he's making art or something. So, you know,
the Tulip
price index. Ah, yes, tulips. So you see here, this is Tulip price index from 1636 to 1637.
So it's about the Dutch tulip bubble. So its peak was in 1637. And this is we're actually going to find out a little bit more about this, because I've heard about this for years. This extraordinary tulip bubble that is like kind of like an example of like, look, anything can be a bubble. Anything, any commodity or anything that has any value.
In a capitalistic system.
Well, in a capitalistic system, this can occur. So according to Charles Mackay's famous book, Extraordinary and Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds, the following amount was paid for a single tulip root. 2 lasts of wheat, 4 lasts of rye, 4 fat oxen, 8 fat swine, 12 fat sheep, 2 hogsheads of wine, 4 tons of beer, 2 tons of butter, 1,000 pounds of cheese, a complete bed, a suit of clothes, and a silver drinking cup.
You're talking about for a fucking tulip root?
For the root of a tulip, Paul!
You gotta be kidding me, bro.
I am not kidding you, sir. So, of course, when people think about really crazy fucking economic bubbles, this is one that comes to mind. This is actually, we have a little extra here from in 2000, Businessweek reviewed Mike Dash's book, Tulip Mania, this is often referred to as the Tulip Mania. And this is what he writes. It is impossible to comprehend the Tulip Mania without understanding just how different tulips were from every other flower known to horticulturists in the 17th century, says Dash. The colors they exhibited were more intense and more concentrated than those of ordinary plants. Despite the outlandish prices commanded by rare bulbs, ordinary tulips were sold by the pound. Around 1630, however, a new type of tulip fancier appeared. Lured by tales of fat profits, these florists or professional tulip traders sought out flower lovers and speculators alike. But if the supply of tulip buyers grew quickly, the supply of tulips did not. The tulip was a conspirator in the supply squeeze. It takes 7 years to grow from one seed. So 7 years to actually get it to flower. And while bulbs can produce 2 or 3 clones or offsets annually, the mother bulb only lasts a few years. So Bulb prices rose steadily through the 1630s as ever more speculators wedged into the market. Weavers and farmers mortgaged whatever they had to raise cash to begin trading. In 1633, a farmhouse in Hoorn, which is, I guess that's how you say it, I don't know you fucking Dutch people, changed hands for 3 rare bulbs.
It's
For 3
pronounced
rare tulip bulbs.
horny, Scotty.
we're so horny and horny.
So a farmhouse for 3 rare bulbs, Paul.
Yeah, so
A whole fucking house for 3 bulbs?
Paul, I'll tell you what, to make you a fine deal, the house you're looking at seems rather nice. I have 4 rare tulip bulbs for you, Paul.
It's not all that
rare tulip.
nice and sold.
By 1636, any tulip, even bulbs recently considered garbage, could be sold off, often for hundreds of guilders, which is, I guess, their fake money. A futures market existed for bulbs, and tulip traders could be found conducting their business in hundreds of Dutch taverns. Tulip mania reached its peak during the winter of 1636 to 1637, when some bulbs were changing hands 10 times a day. The zenith came early that winter at an auction to benefit 7 orphans whose only asset was 70 fine tulip bulbs left by their father. One, a rare Violetten Admiral van Ikenhuisen bulb, that's a fucking mouthful name for a bulb, was about to be split in 2 and sold for 5,200 guilders. The all-time record. All told, the flowers brought in nearly 53,000 guilders.
damn, that's a lot of fucking guilders, bro.
Dude, I don't know what a guilder, what that's in real money, but it sounds like a lot of fucking money.
Probably be hard to even figure out an exchange rate after all this
But
time.
if guys, what goes up must come down. Soon
Uh-oh.
after, the tulip market crashed utterly and spectacular.
Oh no.
It began in Haarlem at a routine bulb auction when, for the first time, the greater fool refused to show up and pay. So they're like, this tulip now goes for this exorbitant price. Within days, the panic spread across the country. Despite the efforts of traders to prop up demand, the market for tulips evaporated. Flowers that had commanded 5,000 guilders a few weeks before now fetched 1/100th that amount.
So wait a minute. They basically like pumped this thing so high that they set a price for a tulip that one of these fucking giant whales was like, you know what? A herd of oxen, 28,000 barrels of cheese, 29 billion guilders, my wife's pussy for a week, my firstborn son, and everything that I earn seems a bit steep. I think I shall pass on purchasing this orchid. And then everybody was like, oh, nobody cares about the fucking tulip no more.
Yeah, and then the price just crashed from there to like 1/100th.
It was just like, wait a minute. If this tulip truly is not worth 8 farmhouses, 90 million barrels of cheese, and a herd of oxen, then is it worth less or much less?
That sounds like a pretty crazy tale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except it might not even be true.
Really? You told me a lie?
Sorry.
Why are you lying to us, Scotty? What the fuck?
I like to lie to people.
Oh.
It's fun. You have to believe everything. Well, actually, this is a popular, more than likely is a popular myth.
What?
Yeah, it's kind of like how vibrators, were invented to cure masturbation kind of thing, or vacuum cleaners, whatever the fuck it was.
Whoa. Wait, what?
Well, that's one of our fake trivia. Whatever. I'm not getting sidetracked with that with you, CJ.
sorry,
You're a
fine.
pervert. Except it
I was
might not even be
interested.
true. In 1636, according to an 1841 account by Scottish author Charles Mackay, the entirety of Dutch society went crazy over exotic tulips. As Mackay wrote in his wildly popular Memoirs of Extraordinary People, Popular Delusions, and Madness of Crowds, which we just referred to, as prices rose, people got swept up in speculative fever, spending a year's salary on rare bulbs in hopes of reselling them for a profit. Mackay dubbed the phenomenon the tulip mania, which is what's commonly referred to as now. That's what he writes. A golden bait hung temptingly out before the people, and one after the other, they rushed to the tulip marts like flies around a honeypot. Nobles, citizens, farmers, mechanics, seamen, footmen, maidservants, even chimney sweeps and old clothes women's dabbled in tulips. And of course, when the bubble suddenly burst in 1637, Mackay claimed it wreaked havoc on the Dutch economy. Many who, for a brief season, had emerged from the humbler walks of life were cast back into the original obscurity. Substantial merchants were reduced almost to beggary, and many a representative of a noble line saw the fortunes of his house ruined beyond redemption.
Shit.
Sounds horrible, right?
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. According to historian Anne Goldgar, Mackay's tales of huge fortunes lost and distraught people drowning themselves in canals are more fiction than fact. Goldgar, a professor of early modern history at King's College of London and author of Tulip Mania, Money, Honor, and Knowledge in the Dutch Golden Age, understands why Mackay's myth-making has endured. It's a great story, and the reason why it's a great story is that it makes people look stupid.
Yeah, pretty much.
Says Goldgar, who laments that at even a serious economist like John Kenneth Galbraith parroted Mackay's account in a short history of financial euphoria. But the idea that Tulip Mania caused the Big Depression is completely untrue. As far as I can see, it caused no real effect on the economy whatsoever. The problem, says Goldgar, is the source material that Mackay used in 17th century Holland. There was a rich tradition of satirical poetry and song that poked fun at what Dutch society deemed to be moral failures. Out of that tradition came entertaining pamphlets and poems that targeted the alleged folly of the tulip buyers, whose crime was thinking that trading tulips would be their ticket into Dutch high society. So it was like these fucking country bumpkins thought they were going to do this shit. So they just got involved in a
basically
scam.
like it's the modern cryptocurrency, really. It's
Yeah.
like, people are like, yeah, Doge to the moon, motherfucker. Yeah.
I'm going to be fucking rich.
I'm going to be the next Bill Gates with my motherfucking Dogecoin, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's essentially that line of thinking.
And then you have your Bill Maher that comes out there like, you're a fucking dumb shit.
Fuck you, Doge to the moon.
And this dude basically found that and was like, yep, this is what happened.
Yeah, when people are going, tulip bulbs are going to take us to the fucking moon.
I'm telling you guys, tulip bulbs to the fucking moon, bitches.
Dude,
Guys, let's bring it back.
I'm ready to ride the tulip bubble to the moon.
Me
dude.
too.
Yeah, I know. Let's do it, guys. Let's fucking restart that.
Hell yeah.
Why don't
Tulip
we
Mania.
just start a fake bubble? Like they're doing this NFT shit right now that I
Yeah.
don't understand, where like somehow like a picture, like a pixelated picture of Pikachu is worth $1 million or some shit. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't get it.
exactly. So,
It's like, how do I get in on this shit? You know what I mean? Like, how do I make
Yeah.
that kind of money? Give me what I need to pick something. Like a
We'll
like that I
find the
can
world's
make
rarest
myself.
tulip.
Dude,
All right,
the
Paul,
salt.
what do we do?
The anger shortage is coming, dude. Forsooth, I have seen it. People shame outbursts of salty rage now, and fewer of us are born that can do it. You would like a salty outburst? I must charge 18 head of oxen, 42 barrels of your freshest cheese.
that's it. You found it.
Gotta do
Anger-
it.
Anger tokens, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could do it if you wanted
I think
to.
it's so cool that you could just make, like, if you need an example, you could just make up some history. Just like, yeah, this happened.
This shit happened.
Yeah, this is the thing that happened.
This is what went down, man.
My problem with Mackay and later writers who have relied on him, which is virtually everybody, is that he is taking a bunch of materials that are commentary and treating as if they're actually factual.
Yeah, he's basically like looking at like old opinions and be like, hey, this was an
Look
opinion.
at these dupes. It's like they're looking at the fucking modern day like deep fat fry or the fucking 1636 deep fat fried fucking types going like, look at the fools that invested in tulips.
Suckers. And they're like, yeah, that's how it was.
That's a scary thought. One day this show might actually be used as
Good.
some factual source of information by somebody.
Good. I'll start throwing all kinds of wacky shit out there.
Yeah, like the fucking war of 1988 or whatever the fuck it
I mean,
was.
yeah, it happened.
Well, there you go. It happened, right?
90% of the population was killed in the war of 1988.
So Goldgar
You know what
actually.
happened then, Scotty?
What, TJ?
The government covered it up.
It's true.
The government covered it up.
Okay.
It happened, Scotty.
It did.
believe
I was there. I
Look,
saw
TJ,
it.
I
I was
believe you.
too. I saw it.
I believe you.
You're too young to remember.
I was a baby, dude, so there's
You
no
were
way
a
I
baby.
remember.
You were just a babe in
Yeah.
arms at that time.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
remember, but I remember.
So TJ,
Yeah, what's up?
this historian, she actually went to the source.
Okay.
She spent years scouring the archives of Dutch cities like Amsterdam. I'm not even going to fucking butcher the rest of these names. The centers of tulip trade in Holland at the time.
Sure.
She painstakingly collected 17th century manuscript data from public notaries, small claims courts, wills, and more. And what Goldgar found wasn't irrational and widespread tulip craze, but a relatively small and short-lived market for an exotic luxury. Too bad. In the mid 1600s, the Dutch enjoyed a period of unmatched wealth and prosperity. Nearly independent from Spain, Dutch merchants grew rich on trade from the Dutch East India Company. With money to spend, art and exotica became more fashionable collector's items. And that's how the Dutch became fascinated with rare, broken, as they call it, tulips, bulbs that produce striped and speckled flowers. So basically, rich people got into this, and then some other people were just envious of them and probably tried to like, hey, there's a little market for this. Maybe these rich people.
Or they're trying to sell it to the fucking rich people. Like, hey, I got one of those. Fucking
yeah. So the price probably increased in a small market for these people. Is more like what happened. So first, these prize tulips were brought basically brought in as like showy display pieces, but it didn't take long for tulip trading to become a market of its own. I found 6 examples of companies that were set up to sell tulips, says Goldgar. So people were quickly jumping on the bandwagon to take advantage of something which was a desired commodity.
So basically what really happened is a bunch of rich people fucking decided that like, hey, we want to show off our wealth. So let's get these rare speckled and striped tulips in our fucking houses. It was a status symbol,
yeah.
And then people are like, holy shit, we can make a bunch of money selling these flowers to these rich people. And it just created a fucking tulip market.
Yeah, that's all that really happened.
Okay.
The most expensive tulip receipts that Goldgar found were for 5,000 guilders, which is basically in that time in 1637, the going rate for a nice house. But those were exorbitant prices were outliers. She found only 37 people who had paid more than 300 guilders for a tulip bulb, the equivalent of what a skilled craftsman.
So this is basically like the equivalent of like going online and seeing that someone is trying to sell a comic book for like $10,000 and being like, it's worth $10,000. But no one's ever actually sold it for that. So it's just like someone asking a ridiculous price for something.
And also another bit of the myth. But even if a form of tulip mania did strike Holland in 1636, was it the entire society down to the chimney sweeps and the old clothes women's and the footmen and the servants, like everyone? Most of the buyers were the sort you would figure would be speculating luxury goods. People who could afford it. They were successful merchants, artisans, not chambermaids and peasants.
So basically, this was like a rich people market.
Yeah. I only identified about 350 people who were involved in the trade, although I'm sure that number is on the low side because I didn't look at every town. Those people were often very connected with each other in various ways through profession, family, or religion. But the biggest surprise apparently was, given McKay's tales of financial ruin, was that she wasn't able to find a single case of an individual who went bankrupt after the tulip market crashed. Not even one. Even the Dutch painter Jan van Goen, who allegedly lost everything in the tulip crash, appears to actually have been done in by land speculation. So, unfortunately, not really a bubble. Not really something that swept the countryside. But hey, if you tell a lie about something that happened, 400 years ago, no one's alive to fucking say.
No one's, and like, other than this crazy chick who actually went and sourced a bunch of documents and shit, most people are not going to be like, let's see if there really was a tulip bubble,
Dude. This, I don't know why. This just reminded me of a scene. I'm watching Deadwood with my wife. Her first time. I've seen it before. And there's a part in that show where, somebody's put a bounty on American Indians and is offering a prize on their head.
Right.
And at one point, there's this scummy, like, street salesman going like, tufts. He's selling hair that he cut off the head. And he's like, tufts of real heathen hair. Send it home to your family and tell them you did the bastard in. Who'd be here to gainsay you? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it doesn't really matter.
No, it does not. The people who stood to lose the most money in the tulip market were wealthy enough that losing 1,000 guilders wasn't really going to cause them any great problems. It was distressing and annoying, but didn't really have any real effect on production. While tulip mania and the ensuing crash didn't flatline the Dutch economy, as McKay inserted, asserted there was still some collateral damage. From court records, Goldgar found evidence of relationships lost and relationships broken when buyers who promised to pay 100 or 1,000 guilders for a tulip refused to pay up. So, of course, it was the old, hey, so you'll pay me 1,000 guilders for that tulip. Now it's not worth shit. Now I'm not going to pay you. So, of course, that was actually the biggest probably cultural impact was trade and credit relationships being fractured.
Yeah, some people were like, obviously if you promise to pay something and the market crashes, you're going to be like, no, not so much anymore.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you then.
I'm going to leave you holding that bag. Sorry. But even if the tulip craze came to an abrupt and ignominious end, Goldgar disagrees with Galbraith and others who dismiss the entire episode as a case of irrational exuberance. Tulips were something that was fashionable, and people pay for fashion, says Goldgar. The apparent ridiculousness of it was played up at the time to make it fun of people who didn't succeed.
So I mean, it seems like the tulip thing was pretty ridiculous, but not nearly as ridiculous as the historical fucking
they took a small, very niche
conventional
market
bullshit. Yeah, I mean, you take you can't even really compare it to crypto or anything like that.
No,
it has to be
way bigger.
Yeah, it'd be like people who trade in
It's like
I can't even think of a modern.
It's like people who trade in an obscure card game or something that's it's very limited. It's a very limited market. And there's a bubble that forms in that market, and it crashes. And some of those,
right now there's
some rich
huge,
collectors.
There's a huge Pokemon card market that's fucking exploding right now. But that's huge. You can't even really compare that to this. This is really a luxury item only being traded in by rich people.
It's also a bubble too. It really is. People's interest in these cards over time, what people are betting on is that this is just going to be culturally relevant as it is forever, or that people are going to have the money to even want to pay the exorbitant sum for the rare Pokemon cards. It's like the Beanie Baby shit back in the 90s. You guys remember that shit?
Oh my God, yeah.
Beanie Babies came out. They were cheap little fucking dolls, but they made limited runs of them. So if you didn't get the hippo when it came out, then all of a sudden the hippo was worth twice what it sold for. And then, it just got to absurd levels where some of these ones that were released were just worth thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh, dude, here's why.
Here's worth dog shit.
Dude, there's famous images of people in court dividing up their Beanie Baby collection.
Yep.
It's this huge asset.
There's people. This Pokemon shit right now. They said that there's so many people. There's so much demand for these cards that the people who do the grading on the cards are just being they can't even keep up with the volume of fucking cards being sent in to be graded. But that tells me that there's way too much of it out there. The market is saturated. There's no the value is not really based on the scarcity.
Dude, millions. Dude, I had a bunch of Pokemon cards. I actually gave them to Stevie.
I just feel like it's not gonna these high prices are not gonna last long.
Dude,
I feel
I had fucking 4 Charizards.
Yeah.
Holographic. I mean, so look, yeah, people asking I want $8,000 for that. There's no fucking way. At a certain point, the market's going to be so saturated with that shit. Because, I wasn't unique. Millions of other kids were watching Pokemon and buying Pokemon cards.
Right. There's just too much of them out there.
Yeah.
So unless you have a truly rare card, then, you're probably not going to, whatever. And most of I don't know. They're just not, it's just not going to fucking happen. But,
we don't know that, TJ. 50 years from
wrong.
now, that they might be super valuable. The holographic Charizard, first edition. This will fetch $300 million for you, sir.
Usually the shit that's really worth the big money is stuff that no one fucking collects or thinks to preserve. Usually that's the shit that's going to fucking actually be worth something.
Or you have something in such great condition that's so rare to have in that condition. If you have a 1980s, NES game, in mint condition.
But these markets will spring up over fucking anything that gets old enough, because there's only so much of these things in the world, I guess.
Well, it deals with scarcity.
Right.
It's that, they're not making any more fucking SNES games. So you can't just go let me go buy one.
It's another reason why this tulip shit was never going to last too, because, a tulip is a fucking plant. You can make more tulips.
Yeah. Eventually, they'll spread. Someone's going to go fucking clone one of those plants. It's not even going to really even kill it. So, whatever. Bubbles, we live in bubbles all the time. It's something that is just ever present in our lives. And because even if you look at it this way, even if the bubble burst, then there's all the negative impacts of that. So it's either it's just what side of the bubble are you on, essentially, as far as where we're at with human civilization.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's just a matter of like seeing the bubble, be like, okay, I gotta get in on the bubble, and then you let it inflate. It's
It's like
okay.
imagine you're trying to play live. It's like
everyone, like a lot of people in the bubble know it's a bubble, and they're just like, okay, I gotta get out of the bubble. Just that moment before it pop. Oh shit! Fuck! You know, it's like I waited too long.
You're trying to time when that bubble is going to burst, and you see the bubble expanding, and it's like,
is it about to pop? It's about to pop.
Well, here it's the fear of missing out too, because that's part of the bubble. Is that like if the value keeps going up, it's like if you sell this, then you could have got more.
Because if you get out of the bubble too fucking early, and then you see it keep inflating, you're like, fuck. I got out of the bubble too fucking early.
Should have been in the bubble.
Stayed in that fucking bubble.
But even though like you're already way ahead,
but then it pops, and you're like, fuck. I should have got out of that bubble sooner.
I want to know when the bubble booty is going to pop.
Oh, yeah.
Sure,
when
know
is
about
that booty bubble going to pop? Ba-boom, 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 pop, 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 pop.
I don't know. Hopefully soon.
All right. That's it, right? We're done?
That's it.
Get out of here.
See ya.
All yous, get out of here. Thanks for being patrons or whatever.
Go make a bubble. Go bubble some shit.
Deep fat fight.